Hello, dear viewer, and welcome once again to Dul Johnson's Creative Talks. I'm a bit under the weather, or should I say deeply under the weather, so my voice might just sound very different, but that's okay. It's the same me talking to you. The last outing we started with me Osundare's poem, My Lord, Where Should I Keep Your Bribe? And we agreed that we will be dealing with the poem stanza by stanza. That's precisely what we're going to be doing. But I just want to appeal to a few people who have asked me for special analysis of certain texts. It's taking a bit of time, but please bear with me. I'm going to do them. I had promised that I will specifically look at The Merchant of Venice, King Lear, in Shakespeare's dramas, and then 1984 by George Orwell from the Prose family. So I will definitely do that. It's going to take a while. Maybe after the Osundari poem, we can take a look at that. I also want to expand a bit on what we had talked about in the previous episode. I want you, if you are not a poet, if you are not a writer, if you are not a student of poetry, I insist that you will be able to enjoy poetry and that you can even become a writer of poetry if you take your time to read. And my advice is that when you are reading a poem, please sit with a dictionary by your side. The truth is that poets always want to look for words that are going to say sometimes precisely what they want to say. Sometimes they are looking for a word that will say something the opposite or something, tangential to what they want to say, depending on how they want to communicate and who they want to avoid. So, it is a bit difficult, understanding poetry at the spur of the moment when you are reading or on the spur of the moment. But if you use a dictionary, it is going to help. Now, I must tell you something else. You see, poets, writers generally, when they choose those words, they make a choice because it says something the way they want to say it. But I can assure you that when we readers crack the words or the statements, the sentences, the structures that they have constructed, we find something different. That a word that a poet has used to mean A actually can mean something very different. And the reader can discover that. And that actually enriches the meaning of the poem. So when the poet gets to see the analysis of their work, they themselves become enriched because the readers have made contributions. In fact, nobody who reads a literary work is a dunce. Nobody who reads a work and interprets it does not add to it. So I encourage you all, take your time, read every work of literature that comes your way. And if I make it a habit to read, because as I kept saying in the past, and I will continue to say it, it develops your brain, it develops critical thinking, and it makes you know places and people and almost everything in the world. So that is my advice to you. Now we move on to stanza number 2 in Oniyi Osundare's poem. This is a well-packed stanza. Very short, but honestly, every word here, almost every word here, you can analyze it for a whole essay. I can tell you that. The question is, shall I hold it up the attic? Now, the word hold, if you know, that's H-A-U-L. To hold is to lift something very heavy. We talk of, in ships, for example, you see chains that are used to lift something from the sea into, or even in trucks, you know, you can use cranes to lift things. That is hauling. So it means, therefore, that what my Lord has carried is something really, really big, or what is being taken to my Lord's house is really something terribly heavy. Otherwise, we can't be talking of hauling, right? And up the attic is to hide it up. An attic is a place up your ceiling, right? Between the ceiling and the roof, where you keep things that are not to be in use on a daily basis. To hold things up the attic, hold a heavy load up the attic, to keep it there, because it is a place where you keep things that are not used on a daily basis. So it is a hidden thing, you know, and you don't want this loot that has come to you to be noticed even by your own family members, right? So the attic is the right place for it. That's line 1. Let's move to the next slide. Between the ceiling and your lofty roof, the attic is between the ceiling and your lofty roof. Now, he's only explaining where the attic is. But lofty is, you know, something beautiful, something revered, okay? So, and of course, these are people who have a lot of money already. And, of course, when they make their own houses, you know, they look very different from the houses of the ordinary people. So naturally, it is a lofty roof. It is a beautiful roof. It is a roof that everyone would just love to, you know, be near it, right? That doesn't say quite much as the first line. It's a continuation of the first line and ending it. Let's move to the next line. Or shall I conjure? Mark the word conjure. Or shall I conjure the walls to open up? Now, to conjure, first of all, it's a miraculous thing, right? It's something you expect of the devil to do, you know. It's like you have a power that you can suddenly ask the wall to open up, okay? Or something to just come out from the floor or from the ground. That is to conjure, to force, you know, or to command something that is not an extraordinary act to happen. Okay? So, for this weight, for this loot, what is needed is a secure kind of hiding, isn't it? So, if you conjure the wall to open up, and you put it there, and the wall closes back, of course, nobody is going to be able to get near that loot. And then, of course, if my Lord dies before he needs to open it up, it is there, gone for good. Just as the one that rots in the sewage tanks and all of that. Okay? And the last line says, and swallow this sudden bounty from your honest labor. So, how many words do we deal with here? We've discussed swallow. The word sudden, the word bounty, the word honest, and labor are where we should put our attention. Now, sudden is something that comes to you without preparation, right? You have not been expecting something. It just, of course, it just comes, right? That's sudden. You've been broke for months. Then somebody rescues you, sends you $1 million. Okay, of course, it's a sudden, but that's a healthy way of getting something sudden. Now, in this case, this wealth, this bounty, this loot has come to you in a way that it shouldn't have, because you have just gone to do something wrong and you get an immediate reward. Now, that's the way, that's what the word sudden means here. You upturned justice against the person who ought to, benefit from justice, and give somebody else who doesn't deserve it. And then, of course, a bounty comes to him. It comes to you, my Lord, immediately. That is a negative, sudden achievement, right? Now, bounty. Bounty refers to plentifulness, something you get in large quantity. For example, you are a farmer. You get to harvest your crops, and it is more than what you expected. That is a bounty. Okay? Or it could just be what you expected. You didn't lose anything. You are happy with your harvest. That is a bounty. We do talk about bountiful harvest all the time. That is to say, you gain or you got what you had hoped for. So, but a farmer labors to get that bounty, right? Take note of that. But we are talking of somebody who has not labored. But because, let me even finish with the bounty first. So that first meaning of bounty, we cannot be sure if that is what the poet is talking about. Reason, as I explained earlier, the poet can always choose a word to say something different from what the word means. Now, the word bounty also refers to a reward, a prize, a sum of money that is given to someone, especially law enforcement persons, agents, who has apprehended a criminal or done something, in that manner. The government will give you a reward, and that is known as a bounty. Okay? So here we are. This, my Lord, we are talking about. I've explained how this bounty is coming, right? Now, is it coming as a reward? Yes, it is coming as a reward. But what kind of reward? It is a negative reward again. It is the person who ought to be in jail that has been given judgment, right? So he sends this bounty to you for what? For doing entirely the wrong thing. And in this respect, I think this is what the poet means. But also remember that this bounty is coming from government. Now, in this case, I'm not telling you where the bounty is coming from, because I do not know whether he means the other, but I suspect that he means the other. And, well, where it is coming from, you have to judge for yourself and see whether the meaning that he's adducing here is the one I am giving you, is left for you. Now, and the word that qualifies the labor is another kettle of fish altogether. He says, from your honest labor. Honest labor. Now, honest. I mean, all of you know what honesty means. I don't have to explain that. But can you get a bribe for being honest? No. You can only get a bribe for doing the wrong thing. So for being, what's the opposite of honesty? Dishonesty, So the judge, my Lord, is doing something wrong. He's doing the opposite of what he should do. And yet, he's getting a bounty. From who? It's either from the person that he has favored, without deserving it, or from the other part, of course. So honest labor, like I said, labor, we know what it means. You break your back, those who really labor. Even people who work in offices, we talk about them going through great labor because you go to work and you are there from 8 o'clock. Some will not even close until 5, 6 o'clock. That's a lot of labor. I mean, you can compare it to that of the people on the farm, you know, or in the motor park carrying things and so on and so forth. Those are the kind of people who deserve such bounties. And yet, here is somebody who sits in a cozy office, does the wrong thing, and gets a bounty which he wants to hide, which he may never use because it gets swallowed up by the wall or by the sewage, and by the time it is seen, it is no longer. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you next time.